consistent and how consistent should you be? Well, let's talk about this because I feel like when I first started looking at my goals and what I wanted, consistency to me was something different than what it is now. And there's some reasons for that. So if you're new on here, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, it's good to see you. My name is Brooke Oaks from brookeoaks.com. Oh, goodness. Scratch that. It's now on brookedesanis.org. Just a little newsflash for any of you who have watched my previous videos. It has switched from Brooke Oaks to brookedesanis.org. Okay. Side note for today. I've had a lot of messages coming to me. Yes, it is still me. But that aside, it's everything's moved over to the new site, so you should be able to find your tips, tools, and resources there. And if you've been concerned because my name changed, it's still me, promise. So let's dive in. Consistency. What does consistency even mean? When you're looking at health goals, when you're looking at things that you want to achieve in life, maybe you're building a business online, maybe you're going to college for something or working on something, like how consistent do you be? Well, let's start with what does it mean to be consistent? And I feel like depending on what your priorities are is going to determine the how. But being consistent is just you showing up, how often you're showing up. So are you showing up every day? Are you showing up twice a day? Are you showing up maybe once a week? Are you showing, how often are you doing the things that you need to do? Now, people who have bigger goals are going to do more, right? If it's a higher priority, you're automatically going to do more. And if you hear some barking, it's Nozo, it's storming. He's trying to get me to play with his toys. I don't know what's going on over here. So if you're someone who's kind of like me, maybe when you started on your goal, you were like, okay, I think I want to do this, but it depends on how everything else goes. Let me know if you're one of those people who you're like, well, this is what I want to do, but I have other priorities. Because I know that's how I was in the beginning. But what I realized is that my goals mean more to me than I thought in the beginning. I realized that I wanted to be able to achieve more faster. I wanted to do more faster. And if you want to do it faster, that's going to determine how consistent you really are, whether it's you're showing up once a month, whether you're doing it once a week, or you're actually taking action 1 to 2 times a day, right? How strong your priority is going to determine that. And so this is where a lot of people struggle with trying to fit things in their day. Like they say, I'm too busy. Well, the busiest people in the world and the most successful people in the world and the people who maybe aren't achieving as much, no matter who you are, you've only got 24 hours in a day, right? That's the mind-blowing thing. Everyone only has 24 hours in a day, and it just depends on how you're using that time. I used to actually have this little planner that I made. And so when you signed up on my newsletter, you would get that planner, and it literally listed out everything that you technically should do that was more of an income producing activity, right? But then you had to take it and figure out where in your day it fit. So now I kind of condensed it where there's a whole Google Keep thing. You can find it on my YouTube channel, but you are going to have to figure out, no one can tell you this is the time that you need to do this, and this is how you should do this. Because when people do that, then you give them all the reasons why you can't. Sound familiar? Have you done that? The people who are told specific ways to do something, a lot of times you're going to come up with the excuses, the why I can't or why it won't work, stuff like that. But when it's a high priority and something that you really want to achieve, you're more likely to find a way. You're more likely to make things work. So, A, how do you determine if it's a priority? And B, how do you make it a priority if you feel like you get buried under everything else from life? There's like a lot of stuff that we could really cover on this topic. And it's not the first time I've talked about consistency. And it's not like this is the main reason that I had that planner on my website. I think it's still there. I think it's under a different thing now, a different tab. But if you want it, let me know. I can get it out to you. So you have to think, if you want to make something a priority, how can you make that happen? Well, one of my favorite things is to look at the front of your day and the back of your day, the start of your day and the end of your day. So like if you can have a little bit more time, where can you put things? So a lot of times, I'm not a night person, not at all. I know since I moved to Georgia, you guys are kind of getting some later night videos on here. But usually I do whatever I can early morning. I find I'm more of a morning person. So like my alarm goes off at 4:15 a.m. Like I start my day at 4:15. If I do not, little Denozo, who you've met on some of my previous videos probably, will make sure that I'm up. If not, usually I end up with a paw in the face. So he knows, he makes sure that I get up. So if you're not a morning person though, and you don't want to start your day at 4:15 or 3:30 or whatever it is in the morning, maybe you want to move your stuff to the nighttime. And maybe if you've got like a lot going on in your house up until 8 o'clock, well, why couldn't you do something after that? Or I know some people on my team, they don't do much except in like that 9 to 10 period or 10 to 11 period. Like that's when they're the most active. Like you got to figure out what time you're willing to give. And the more you focus on being accountable to that, the easier it's going to be. I am a big checklist person. If it's on my checklist, I really need to get it done. And it could be something that I don't need done for like maybe a week or two. But because it's on my checklist, I really want it done. So a lot of times I get it done early just because it makes me feel better. Let me know who else on here is a checklist person. Like I love my checklists. So if you want to be more consistent, find a method that's going to work for you. You could do a checklist, or like I mentioned, Google Keep is really cool. If you set up Google Keep, it's an app on your phone and it'll actually send you reminders, little sticky note reminders at whatever times that you want. So one of the things that I used to do when I was first trying to get myself in a routine was it would send me something in the morning saying, do this, this, and this. And then it would send something, this is when I was way back when I was working at Lowe's, it would send me another thing when I knew my lunch break would be. And I would go and do those things that were on there. And then it sent another thing at the time that I knew I'd be getting home from Lowe's. And so I would do my stuff then. And then I had another reminder thing that it would send when I was going to bed. And each little thing, like it sounds like it's a lot. Each little thing probably took 15 minutes to half an hour to do. And that's how I got started. I started building those small habits. And maybe that's something that sounds like a lot to you. Maybe it doesn't sound like a lot to you because you feel like you're doing a lot more and you've got a lot more going on. Well, when I first started bringing my business on social media in 2017, I worked at Lowe's. It was like 10 to 12 hours a day. I was a head cashier. I was crazy busy. Plus, I was volunteering, training horses for the horse rescue, working with rescue horses. So that was after work and before work also. So like that's how I started though. That's how I got into the routines that I needed. And then over time, it evolved into bigger things. I could expand out and do bigger chunks of time, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour if I had, do those bigger chunks of time each part of the day when I have it. But if you're someone who's really struggling with consistency, what I found personally, and I don't know if you've tried this, but what I would recommend that works for me is starting with those small increments, because those small increments kind of, it's almost like you start at the gym, right? And you're not going to go and you're going to lift 100 pounds. Like, you're not going to start out at 100. You're going to find a manageable weight that pushes you a little bit, but it's not going to kill you. It's not going to hurt you. So, and then you're going to build from there. So you're going to start on that little bit and you're going to build up from there. It's kind of like the same thing when I'm training horses. You start with the small piece and you build up from there. It is easier to work on something small than to pick a big goal of like an hour at a time, 2 hours at a time, and try to fit that in, or even attempt to do it, because then you're going to come up with excuses. Where what worked for me was, okay, I've got 5 minutes right here. What can I do in 5 minutes? Or I know I'm going to have 10 minutes right there. What can I do in 10 minutes? And then what I would realize, I got faster at what I needed to do. And B, I was getting more stuff done. And it felt good to get it done, because once you get in the habit of doing something, like, I'm a very habitual person. I love habits. I do not like change. I have never liked change. I've learned to accept change, but to this day, I do not like change. If you're like that, let me know. Change is hard, change is difficult, but sometimes change is necessary. If you want to grow, sometimes that change is necessary to really help you step out and step up. So I hope you found this helpful. If you are looking for some sort of plan to help you out, let me know. I can get access to that for you. It's a little DMO planner. So I hope you have a wonderful day. And also be sure, let me know what is something that you struggle with in your business. Helps me out for future videos. Hope you have a great